Hello, everybody. Welcome to Hamster's Hobby Hang. We're back. We're back. One stream some time ago, I don't quite remember when, I got started on this guy, and I have a few more of them, so I think I have even more than this. Oh, you know what? I'm kind of was bummed by this, because I think one of the coolest ones with like this hood is like missing an arm. I gotta find some robo arm or something to put on there is what I was thinking. I don't know. Some way to give him an extra arm. He's armless, yeah. Exactly. This is the civilian one. Never mind the giant mace. It's like a gear mace. I don't even know like where that arm would be. I honestly don't even remember where these minis are from. Bought them so long ago. Kind of cool though, just fish alien soldiers. Yeah, big walking stick, exactly. He needs the counterweight to keep his balance because he's missing an arm. Alright. So anyway, I thought we would just do some cool bright colors on these somehow. Oh yeah, the hobby is restorative, isn't it? I do have the new skellies here, but that's right. I did say I was going to do this. I didn't base them. I didn't put any basing material on them. So these are just my fish guys. Way back, a few weeks ago we started this one. But these guys are so cool. I just have to put like texture on the bases. I mean, I don't even like have a reason to use skeletons like that, but I just love the sculpts. Yeah, these are a lot of fun. I still have one or two of the old ones even. What's cool is like I did the pre-order, I didn't realize it came with duplicates, so there's like 4 of these spear guys and 4 like sort of like regular weapon guys, but then there's a couple special unique ones like this. Devourer Demon. Oh, and the Defiant statue base. That'll be cool. Yeah. I mean, you know, skellies can be enemies for anything, right? I do have some like solo PvE type games, like skirmish war games on my shelf here, so even if they don't call for skeletons, I can always use them as the enemies for that, right? That's kind of what I figure. Yeah. Hey, nice. Got some paints. Sweet. Well, we got plenty of guides, and you can always come in here and ask me too. I painted plenty of wildlands. What am I looking for? White? I gotta take a pokey tool to some of these pods because I bought them like lightly used, so some of them were open but like put away. So they're. I love these bottles actually, like this, but some of them are dried up in here. Which like if I'm using these ones even just once a week on the stream, they probably wouldn't do that. But there's some of them I have to be pokey. And I started just opening all of them because I don't know which ones are dried out. So I just open all of them, which defeats the purpose of the awesome bottle. So anyway. For some reason, Hippo, I read Barbie, the word Barbie first, and then burgers second. And I was very confused, but now it makes sense. That sounds delicious. I'm honestly kind of hungry. I didn't eat much before this today. But when that happens, I normally get something after, but... I actually thought of you all because I was in the one part of New York City this past week that has the Arby's. And I had this idea to like, I gotta get a photo, you know, and be like, I'm finally here. I have a reason to be over here. But it just ended up being like too busy of a day. Meat Mountain, yeah. Barbie, not Arby. Yeah. I do, even for a pokey, I have like a safety pin over here somewhere. Oh, you know what I should show you guys? I just used this weekend. Anyone know what this is? The listing says it's for like holding little microchip like computer parts when you're like assembling chips and stuff. It's under $5. But let me tell you, it's a game changer for one specific situation. You use that for electronics all the time? Well, I got another use for you. You ready? Sponge painting. We've all seen it. It's really cool. But how do you hold the sponge? I've done tweezers, even like taped up so that I don't have to pinch them, but it still makes my hands hurt. Look at that. For sponge painting. And you don't gotta pinch the sponge with anything. I saw that somewhere. It wasn't my idea. I don't remember where. But man, when I did that this weekend, I was like, this is life-changing. What kind of electronics do you do? Could probably just do this little cyan thing all over. Oh, what else do I want to show you? Keep your hands a lot cleaner, yeah. I mean, I'm used to dirty hands working at Dwarven Forge. It's only within like maybe a year and a half ago that I started wearing gloves out of habit because I just had paint all over my hands all day, every day. And I realized that might not be great just for like other people who don't know what I do. And if I'm like, oh, hey, nice to meet you, and I don't think about it, and I'm like, and they're like, it's obviously like dry and stuff, but you know, I don't want to put anyone in an uncomfortable situation. Yeah, I don't know. It's just best practice. I should wear gloves, but oh, a device for dissertation. Holy smokes. I'm living in the future. I don't even know what the tool was. I thought it was like a thread. When I told my friends about it, I was like, I think it's like a thread picker for like sewing. It's just my sponge tool for me. Let's see. Oh, I painted these Hero Forge minis. I wanted to show you. This is like their last month's like monthly feature pack sort of thing. Where's the other one? Oh, right here. They were a lot of fun. Like a little tiger guy. Retractable claws are pure sci-fi. Yeah, you're right. This is the first time I've done kind of a brassy thing. I made it in the future. I might make it more reflective, but that was still kind of fun. This is the most Aragorn looking guy of the bunch. I just call it a pickup tool for my fat hand gloves. Fair, fair. Yeah, there you go, rogue stealth. These are all kind of like a group together, so they kind of have similar colors, which is kind of fun. I was thinking about these weapons where I was like, I don't know if this is actually the way light would reflect on these shapes. But I thought, nah, it looks cool. I'm gonna be done with it. I can maybe think about it a little harder, but I just kind of did, pow, wow. Give them the old razzle dazzle with some reflections and then call it good. So anyway. There's like actually not reflections painted on the bottom, so I kind of was... So this is a killer dance troupe? With this guy, it definitely is, isn't it? He looks graceful as all heck. The flowing little waist ties here are super neat. When it was primed black, I was kind of cross-eyed of like, wait, so which one leads to the, you know? This is like when they first released like the Eldar Harlequins in like the early 2000s, mid 2000s. I'm not sure if I showed you this earlier feature pack from Hero Forge. More of a sci-fi one. The hobby hang and the Hero Forge are like all sitting on my desk right here, so it just kind of piles up. There's one more over here. I don't know where it went. Oh, here's another one from the dance troupe. He's more of the poison guy. Yeah, this is kind of a cool pose. It's hard for me to tell like when this is in focus. Maybe I gotta do the thing. I have like a cam link where I think I can use my iPhone as like a camera. Maybe it'd be clearer. I'll have to try that again. I did it years ago and I thought it was maybe kind of similar, but this guy's cool. There's a little bit of like a miscast on one of these thin little things here, but can't really even tell. Yeah. Look at this. Imagine hauling this thing around. Feeling like a superhero with the leg enhancement. This visor is probably like, again, not realistic, but it still looks cool, I think. I mean, light is so weird on like reflective surfaces, so it's kind of hard to go wrong as long as you just sort of commit to a thing. Complete one of these? Well, I mean, keep in mind, you know, I've been working with like this limited palette of paints for like a long time, so my mixing is like gotten pretty good. These are just fluorescents. I don't really use these except niche. It's pretty much just, this is all the paint I use for these. So I don't know, they take me like an hour. But that's just because like I'm used to the process of layering up with my mixes, so you know, when I first started committing to like a limited selection of paints for like hobby hang, just because I have a tiny desk at home here, you know, I wasn't quite as fast, but and these are all like fairly like humanoid size. Like who knows if I did a giant or something, you know. But for a good like Tabletop Plus mini, I try to get it done within a couple hours at most. It used to be like when I first started hobby hang like 4 or 5 years ago now, that would probably go like 3 to 4 hours. But from one thing, practice, but also just sort of like a slight philosophy shift of, you know, I would kind of get fixated on weird stuff, and you know, now I just sort of know what I want to hit, if that makes sense. Like I've cut some steps, so that also helps. And I think it's a similar or better result in less time. So anyway, this is part of my evolution. I feel like I've gotten past somewhat of a plateau recently, like with tabletop level, at least in those early stages. I mean, it really comes down to the sketch and refine thing that's said a lot. Just being okay with sort of a messy version, or a messy early stage to get your values. Phoenix, that is what I do at the studio. If I'm gonna be painting a lot of stuff with a mix, I'll normally just mix a big batch, and like online really cheap you can get like little empty bottles. But you know, I know it's easier said than done. I would say try not to worry about it too much, especially because like nature has a ton of variance, right? And I know like your tiles and stuff that are going to go up against other pieces, you kind of want them to be coherent, so like when you build them out, But as long as you get away from the edges, you know, what I don't want, I mean, be as particular as you prefer, but what I don't want is for it to become frustrating for that reason, you know? Because color matching, let me tell you, can be super frustrating. So, you know, maybe put that effort of coherency like on the edges that will meet other pieces, but allow yourself to be a little free on the insides. Yeah, not even stop. It's just like paint covers paint, right? So it's like, don't. Basically, what I am constantly telling myself is like, don't fix the early steps. Fix it in the final detail steps because you're covering up the early steps. Sometimes I'm like, well, that's not how I want it to look. It's like, yeah, you're not done. You know? So, that's just one thing. Like, for instance, these four that I just showed you, I painted at kind of the same time, like over 1 or 2 days. And like, I started the group with this one, and it probably took me like 2+ hours, like 2.5 hours. And by the time I was kind of like in the groove of like this style, and I have some mixes on the palette, and I kind of am in the groove, it's like this is less than half the time almost by the time I get to it. And part of it's the model, like a lot of this is one material, like this yellow metal, you know, like, so that takes up a lot of the area. But you know, when I'm kind of starting out and getting in the groove and like getting back in the groove of mixing on the palette and the brush control, you know, it takes me a second. So like this one took a lot longer just because it was first. But they're not even like better or worse than each other. It's just like getting in that flow. Oh yeah, that is a good idea. Just have like the dried up palette in front of you. I do that a lot too. This is not as good. Like sometimes I'll at least take a quick photo of the palette so I can kind of see, you know, it's tough to go off of that. Like I wouldn't compare that necessarily, but it's a nice map because I see like the stuff around it that I was mixing, where it's just like where was like, take like a timestamp of my brain at that moment. But having like the physical thing in front of you is great. Okay, how about we paint? Let's see. Oh, another big thing that has been fun is I've finally come to terms with like, well, first of all, one fun experiment has been like removing black from my palette entirely. Put it out for the base rooms, that's it. Not because I don't think you should have black on your palette, but I just was always kind of bummed with like my saturation in the final result, and it's because I was mixing black into a lot of dark mixes, which makes sense, but it just pulls it way down. So I'm kind of coming to terms with like, at least in the paint schemes that I like on my stuff, is like how little area is pure black. That's like almost none actually. Which if I were to recommend someone who's starting out, I would still say black primer, right? Just because, you know, if you miss an area or something, it's gonna look like a shadow, you know, if you like miss and under. But I've kind of moved away from that recently, because it's like there's so, like, unless it's like a recess, like a dark line area, like a pit or something, like so there's very few things that end up being black when they're just in a normal light situation. So that's been kind of fun. So these are I based in gray. I still based all those Hero Forge in black, but I basically base coat the whole thing right away. And there's still situations where I'll blackline, but even like this purple that gets in the recesses, it's usually dark enough, something like that. So, you know, it's like to each their own, but as far as my process goes, I've been having fun of just like, what would happen if I didn't put black on the palette until the base room at the end? And it's been, had some fun results, so. Yeah, purple can be tough. I mean, it's similar to red, I guess, in the sense of like highlighting it is tough because it so easily goes pink if you start mixing like too much white and stuff. And it's because there's red in it, so like red is like, oh, do I highlight it with pink or with orange, and it kind of depends. But the big thing I had to learn with purple and red and blue is like what I think of when people use the term chroma. It's like basically if you want it to remain that color and not go pink or into some other range, it's just going to be darker generally. Like for something to look purple, you can highlight small areas as bright as you want, but if you start over highlighting it, that's when it starts transforming. You know, like green or a blue, if you start adding white, it will still like read as green and blue, usually. But if you start mixing white into purple and red, it starts to look pink, like identifiable as like an almost different color. So basically I just have to refrain from over highlighting it. And as far as mixing it, like you say, it is just a really potent pigment usually. So it can be a little tough to mix, yeah. Mix it with other stuff, you know. I would say if you're worried about its sort of interaction with the base coat, it might be worth it to do a base coat of like a dark blue, like your Basil blue or something. Just to get something that's cool on top, even if that doesn't go fully opaque and looks a little weird on over the green, it's going to still give that cool factor that will support the purple as opposed to trying to paint purple right over the green. I know it's an extra step, but if you can imagine trying to get the purple to look right over green would probably take a couple steps anyway. In fact, what I would probably do personally is just hit it with a quick once over of blue. You know, don't worry if it's a little patchy because that purple will sell it after the fact. But you'll probably get a little more mileage from that blue underneath as opposed to the green. No, it depends on the paint you're using too. Yeah, exactly. It is one of the more complicated schemes. Here's the thing too, depends on the purple you're using. Like if I had this brand, like I have a nice purple from this brand, you know, I could probably get away with one heavy coat on like just the accent plants. That's what you're doing with purple, little flowers. I probably wouldn't even worry about an extra step. But, you know, it depends. on your preference. Oh yeah, and Express is like the really transparent, like contrasty paints, right? So I probably would avoid those on the terrain. Oh yeah, yeah. If you take like shallow or deep green, like you're not even gonna if you just correct quickly the little details around it if you go over the and do the wrong area or something. I wouldn't even like dry brush it or anything because you're not gonna see it. If as long as you just get that border of the flower correct with the green, it will just look like a little recess. This is, I'm all just mixing on here. Here I'm just mixing on this model. But if you take any of the Wildlands greens and just do a quick like coloring book little fix on the perimeter of the plants, I wouldn't even worry about fixing it beyond that, because it's going to vanish for sure. What I do have in this mix, you want to be careful with this, but if you want some opacity, is to add white. Now it is going to desaturate it. The best way to get saturation is like a bold color out of the bottle and try not to mix it. Usually that's the most saturation. But because I'm going to highlight this and I just want opacity over the purple, because I know it's a little bit of a jump to do the green over the purple, I add a touch of white just because white generally is opaque. More so than other pigments. Just a property of the pigment itself. So it's like not even really enough to shift the color a lot. It's just giving it some opacity here. Now it will shift it a little bit, obviously, but we're still in like the base layers here. Like I basically just did an all over purple one because I want it generally to be like on a cool side. But just to have something that's relatively dark to leave in like the deepest recesses. And to have something that can show through and be kind of surprising, but mainly like the deepest recesses has something that's not primer, that's dark. It's basically my idea. Yeah, it's a good way to start with white just because it is so opaque. You know, generally a matte paint you could do almost anything. Like if you were to do black so you could dry brush the rocks, it wouldn't be a bad idea either. But that's also usually on the more opaque side. You know, like your typical, like an any version formulation of paint, contrast paint, you know, whatever. Pigments themselves that are always annoyingly transparent are like yellow, orange because it has yellow. You know, these just don't have covering power. Like we've experienced this, right? You try to paint yellow stuff, you know, it's like not. It takes a lot of layers. Sometimes you start with brown just because that's more opaque, and then you paint the yellow on top of it, so you don't do a million layers. You know, red often is on the more transparent side. You see the symbol here is semi-opaque. But then the titanium white is opaque. This generally isn't because of stuff they're putting in the bottle as a formula, it's just the pigment. Like titanium white pigment is just opaque. And white base coat too is good, Dinah, for like your transparent paints as well, because it will maintain saturation when it's stained. You know, obviously, you know, you can probably picture if you were to put your contrast paint over black, you know, it's mostly gonna be black. It's gonna desaturate. But white is also good for that technique too, for the matte coverage, and then being stained by inks or contrast paint or something. Now, the Hellscape is a unique situation. It's base coated in white because it was designed to be able to go on the light panels. And what we found was if you just did a straight black layer, the casting was transparent enough where the light panels would the light would get sucked into that black that was the light would go through the yellow casting color, hit the black, and get swallowed up. But if you base coat it white, even though the rocks obviously aren't going to be white, when the light is piercing the transparent casting, it would get reflected back. So it's not going to go through the rocks, but it's going to get bounced back through the transparent lava parts. So anyway, it was kind of interesting how dramatic the difference was when you light the lava when the rocks are base coated white instead of base coated straight black. Yeah, science. See, already there's some weird moisture somewhere in my palette here. Already I'm starting to mix this yellow into here, and it goes so transparent. So that, you know what, I might even just mix more of the blue, like do a smaller jump between these colors. Just for opacity. So I'm gonna be a little darker first. Yeah, I have some Chimera. I haven't used them in a while. They might have kind of gone bad on me. They're like really thin. Liquitex is just available in my local art stores. Like, I like this acrylic wash, which is basically just matte acrylic paint. Like, wash is like an opaque watercolor usually, but this is an acrylic base, so it's not like gonna reactivate with water. But it basically just has like matte, and it's formulated the closest to hobby paints that I found in like an art store paint. So that's why I like it, and it has like single pigments that are easier to mix. And this is like such a big bottle that it's my go-to until it's empty. um, but you know, I have these. I don't really like them more or less than like the Liquitex. It's just a similar, widely available art store brand. Has the pigments listed. Has matte, medium in it. Has decent opacity. So these two ended up being that brand just because I had them. That's what's been on my desk here for like a year or two, but I have way too many paints in the studio like that I bought personally that are just, I have barely touched them. So basically any titanium, that's what's nice about the Chimeras, is they're typically like 1 or 2 pigments in there, so they're, you know, it's more intuitive to mix those for me. You know, if you have like hobby paints that have like their branded names but you don't know what's in them, they'll do weird things because there's like white mixed in or something. So it's not like, oh, blue and yellow mix green. It's like, why is this going gray? It's like, because you don't know what's in it. So now that I primarily mix, I like the pretty much any art store brand that's matte. Do I have it? I do have this here. Here's something that's interesting to try. There's probably other brands other than Liquitex that make this. This is called Mixing White. Transparent Mixing White. It's literally just white that has like some medium in it that makes it more transparent. We just talked about how opaque white is. So when you do mix it into something, it has a very strong effect. This is doing the same thing, but because it's transparent, it's a little more forgiving to mix into colors. And it will never be as powerful in the mix as a true opaque white, which is nice in some situations. I was surprised how much this actually worked. I was like, can't I just like be diligent with how much white I'm adding? It's like, well, this actually does do a nice job just by being transparent. With like your blues, that same thing we were talking about where, you know, purple or red might go pink really fast. If you add that transparent white, that's a situation where you can get away with mixing with that because it won't push the value away from red as much. I don't know if they have a smaller tube. You can probably find, like, the main properties you're looking for is a bright white that's transparent. So you can go to any brand. You know, try an ink, try a hobby brand. If you want a certain size bottle or something, just look for those properties in your collection. Even, yeah, this bottle is, and I mean, for what you get, it's not that expensive. I mean, it's going to be more expensive than a hobby brand of paint, maybe, but it'll last you forever. But yeah, if you just, I don't know if there's like a cheaper bottle because like hobby paints kind of have a markup, right? But you know, just look for something that has some transparency that is also bright white. Try that out. Yeah, already this mix that has yellow in it is... I almost like don't want it on the wet palette. Just want it straight out of the bottle. Yeah, well, I mean it's mixed, but have it on a dry palette for the yellows. I don't know. That'd be annoying to have at the same time though. It'll be fine once we keep going and add some opacity. I'm not worried. Just want some quick coverage. That honestly is just yellow mixed with blue. And that's what I'm talking about, is the finickiness of yellow pigments. But our highlights now will, we're really gonna hit some highlights, and they have some white in there, so once again we'll have some opacity. Which is also good for, like, you know, I need the paint to stay where I put it on the highlight, you know? I can't have it super flowy. The main thing I'm trying to get right now is this values. We can always kind of adjust the color in our final steps. especially because these have really awesome detailing, sort of the musculature. Make sure it's pretty readable. Maybe this one will let that cooler highlight sort of be his skin pattern higher up here. think what I might do is, see, even the white out of the bottle, I mean, acrylic is always going to have some transparency, so this white's been out on the wet palette a little bit right now. I think I'm just going to hit some relatively small highlights with, this is pure white, and just by being diluted a little bit, it's going to sort of come through, because I think I'll do some quick glazing on here, at least the skin. That's like the main thing I want to kind of pop, right? So I'm going to make sure we have some little exaggeration. Where appropriate, so upward facing planes. little head fin is kind of tricky because it's almost like cast a little weirdly, like there's not as fine a detail in the casting. So it's hard for me to do sort of this loose kind of sketching on it, but we'll just have to kind of cheat it. Okay, let's see what we can do here. Well, let me get... kind of bridging this blue to green here with a slight filter. Yeah, I do like how yellowish colors work over white as a filter. That's my favorite way to do yellowish colors. Like, if you look at my Mojo Hamster Minis Instagram, the Stormcasts are primarily super bright yellow. It's mostly just like a slap choppy white dry brush with a kind of golden yellow ink over it, and then it's spritzed with, like, in the shadows with some orangey stuff. But the primary yellow is ink over white. Gonna filter it in between again, just a little. Looks kind of cool. I think there is a little more going on than this first one that I did, so that's nice. A little more pop to it. I do love a step like this, though, that really just starts tying it together, you know? It's like a fairly low effort but significant impact sort of step. So, you know, you don't have to do like a contrast paint if you want to do like a white filter thing. You can still do it with regular paint. Just kind of do your own dilution here. Use small amounts of paint. It's kind of fun to have a little more control. Thank you, yeah. Yeah, that's the like when in doubt, especially when you want the colors to be bright, it's like just go to white. You can always filter it down. But especially for tabletop, it's like you really can't go wrong with just picking out some spots in white and filtering it. Because you just need that contrast on the table for small stuff like this. Like sometimes it kind of feels like too much, but remember you're going to put this thing down, not under your paint lamp. It's going to be like your dining room table lighting, right? So I'm always telling myself to push it just further than I think, usually, on the painting desk. You can even too, like, if you're really gentle, I've done this a couple times here, if you go a little heavy, light dab with your finger will sort of sponge off stuff from the major highlights in a nice way. straight up have some metal showing on the toes. Fish abs, yeah. Yeah, the sculpts are really cool. I mean, I'm kind of just drawing what's on the sculpt, you know? But, like, look at the difference, right? Like, this is just white, and this is with the filters. You know, not just white. We did all our preliminary base coats. But I think it's worth it, like, because if you were to just do your traditional black and white slap choppy deal sketch and filter it, you know, it would super desaturate in these recesses if they were black. So I think it's still worth it. And it gets me, like, used to the model, and I kind of know, I'm kind of learning as I go, like, what I want to do with the model. I don't have an idea as much right before. I knew I wanted to do the color shift thing, but that's kind of it. So there's something to that as well. You know, here's the other one with filters and without here. And not inks, not contrast paint. It's just the same acrylic that's on my palette that I base coated with. So, you know, those properties of those paints are useful for this stuff. But, like, acrylic paint's acrylic paint at the end of the day. There's some properties that work better for different things. But when you kind of are used to the tools you have in your collection, like, I'm used to these paints and I know how to dilute them just because I painted them for so long. That, you know, they're easy shortcuts if you want that, but they're not required. You know, specific paint formulations for specific techniques. Oh, that's right, Death Wizards. I mean, I always like supporting those guys' games. Remember hearing about that. That is a good idea, you're right. I'll have to look into that. Right now I'm in a place, like, over the summer I've put less time into the games, that even the ones that I am regularly playing, like Warhammer. But as we get to the cooler months, maybe I'll do a little more gaming. Yeah, it took me like 2.5 hours to buy Silk Song because the store was crashed. I played it for a quick 30 minutes, but hopefully I'll be able to sink my teeth in soon. Your stat tells you how many d10s to roll. Or someone rolling against your stat tells them the target they need to exceed on their d10s. Okay, that does sound cool. Yeah, I mean, right off the bat, the color palette of Silk Song is really cool, really awesome. And like the music, just as killer as the first game. I mean, even the menu music, I was like, oh, yes. Yeah, exactly. Adult life. Yeah, that's the same boat I was in. I had a little lunch and sort of putzed around on it until, it was break time was over. Okay, let's see. I want the rest of this gear, since the skin is so bright, I want pretty much everything else to be fairly dark. Not black again, just because this is super kind of cartoony scheme almost. But I do want to get it as dark as possible without being black, so that's kind of what I'm doing here now. Being a little more on the neat side. Oh yeah, I get that. The platforming, like I'm really not good at platforming games, so yeah, the controls can get the better of me in Hollow Knight sometimes, but I just love the atmosphere and the design. I want to get this darker, but I also want to make sure there's like those sort of points of separation between, you know, like the hands and the weapon and stuff. Kind of trying to be neat with that. But then generally, I kind of just want to cheat with this and like highlight all the purple kind of the same, and then the weapons and stuff will get like extra, maybe some metallic-y reflective highlights extra, but then all the other bits and bobs will just kind of have this base and one highlight and call it good, because everything else will hopefully be flashy enough to cover for it. Yeah, it's just practice and brush control, and some of it isn't perfect, but it's enough where it, like the separation reads, you know, because if it were to kind of go too far out of the intended area, it like wouldn't read. But if I were to like look up close, it probably wouldn't be perfect, but like it reads enough from table view. Sorry, I forgot I was all zoomed in. Yeah, so from here, maybe I'll even pull out this mixing white here. I haven't used that actually in a while. See, for the most part, just to call it good, most of this is about as much as it's gonna get right here. See that? Because then there's more contrast from the bright to the separated bits and bobs. So too much paint. But we'll do more on the weapon and stuff. Still hit it with this. Doesn't this guy have his helmet on? He's going into battle, he's armed. Yeah, well, to each fish their own, you know? That is a cool detail, though. I like that. Big old belt buckle might get a little extra too as we go. I'm just kind of giving a once over on everything, just so it technically has like a base and a highlight on it, and then to finish it off, anything that I actually want to paint, I'll articulate a little more. This is gonna get a lot of stuff, so just preemptively doing some of that. I'm just starting to layer up some white on stuff I kind of want to be reflective, you know. Hang a lantern on some of this stuff. The main gear, the weapons. And you know, classic layering style, I'll just do smaller areas of each highlight, and the opacity will build up so it's almost as if I'm using a ton of different colors, but I'm just kind of letting the opacity build up to different values. It's kind of one of those things where like you could think you're done or like you're as bright as you can go, but then it dries and like you actually can tap a spot here or there for some extra highlight. Maybe for further separation, I'd base the weapons specifically a little differently, but I don't know. we're at about time here, so I can always do that next time. I was hoping to finish these, but we made good progress. Be interesting to try some stuff on the base, because I kind of want it to be oceanic in a way, but maybe it could be, I wanted to really split off from the model, so it could almost even be like a purple pink, like a coral type color might be kind of cool, like a coral world. That'd be neat. But I'm happy with how the skin turned out. Yeah, they do have some distinctive character, don't they? I imagine these like could go in some kind of war band as enemies, or even the player war band of different, you know, the elite melee guy and like maybe just a kind of groundling grunt, and maybe a more elite guy. He has some slight armor and grenades and stuff. Yeah, they're kind of cool. Great sculpts. Love that. Yeah, I kind of like that idea, huh? Next week, it looks like I have nothing on the calendar, so hopefully we'll be back. I'm glad it helped. I hope you got some tips. You can always feel free to ask questions and whatnot. I love chatting paint, so next Thursday we'll be back. Maybe finish these guys and start some skellies as well, or something new. We'll definitely be able to finish these and start something at least. I didn't finish this first one either. We can do something cool, like glowy with this grenade type thing. Little orb. But yeah, thanks so much for joining me. I hope you had fun. You posted it in the Discord? I'll have to take a peek. But otherwise, probably miss next week. Yeah, check out the VOD. I think Chris might put them on the VOD YouTube channel as well too. If it's not, I'm sure it'll still be on the Twitch at that point. But anyway, y'all, thank you so much for hanging out with me. I had fun being back. I love these little fish dudes, and I will see you later. Have a good night.